Thank you so much, Vadim, for bringing all these amazing startups on stage. It was really inspiring to listen to them. And I will bet the jury will have a hard time to decide who will win. And if you're already as curious as I am, please stay for the award ceremony at 5 p.m. So while the jury goes into deliberation soon, we are going to have a look at how startups can survive the so-called valley of death. High-tech startups operating in manufacturing face normally numerous challenges on their way to the market. One of the most significant ones is raising additional financing after the initial capital contribution by investors or funding authorities is gone, so to say. This is the so-called valley of death, and it's crucial for success. Many startups would know. So our panelists today will talk about their way from the initial prototype to a product that can generate revenue, and we'll also examine the tools EIT Manufacturing provides to tackle this difficult period in the time of startups. So please welcome with me on stage Gerhard Russ, who is our Innovation Manager at EIT Manufacturing CLC East, Gaetano Padribmia, who is the Innovation and Intellectual Property Manager at Prima Additiv. And online we have as a guest Klaus Illner, who is the CTO of K-Lens. And now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Gerhard.
Thank you.
And stage is yours.
Thank you. We did not meet each other before, so. So thanks for joining our session with the frightening topic about the valley of death and how to escape from it. So my name is Gerhard Russ. I'm Innovation Manager in EIT Manufacturing. And in that role, I saw already plenty of projects. Many of them were really good, had a good outcome, but not so many of them reached then in the end the market. So the question is, why is that? And what can we do to increase the success chance? Today we have two guests here with us. So here on screen, I hope, we have Klaus Illner from K-Lens. Hello. And here beside me is Gaetano Padribmia from Prima Additiv. Both of them did projects with EIT Manufacturing. Both of them, they had an idea for a product, ran through a project, went for the market. And in the next 30 minutes, we will learn from them how that journey was. What were the biggest issues they faced, and how did they finally manage to get to the market? Or perhaps we also learned that they never reached the market and they are still stuck somewhere in the valley of death. However, before we go there, I want to give them the chance to introduce themselves. Let's start with K-Lens.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, well, I'm Klaus Illner from CTO at K-Lens. I have a background in electrical engineering and work basically all the time in the area of digital signal processing, digital image processing in various branches, always at the edge of innovation and making innovations happen, bringing them to products. So in the semiconductors, in telecommunications, mobile communications, professional media production, and now also as co-founder of a startup K-Lens. The K-Lens in our company, we have invented a new solution to capture multiple perspectives, 3D information with a single camera in a single exposure. And this enables new possibilities in applications. But I think we get to this point a little bit later in the course of the discussion.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm wearing the same clothes, so you can recognize me. The same clothes of the picture. So actually, I'm the innovation manager and intellectual property responsible for the Prima Industria Group. So I think that it's worth to a little bit clarify how we are organized, because Prima Industria is the, let's say, the main corporate that own with the 50.1% the Prima Additiv, that is this new company that actually is born as a brand okay, in 2018. My background is in aerospace engineering, and I'm working with Prima Additive since the very beginning, where it's born in 2018, and now in April Prima Additive has become an independent company, always owned by Prima Industria. But I think that is worth also for the rest of the discussion to understand that we are basically a startup born inside of a big company like Prima Industria.
Okay, thank you. Then let's start with by the way, if there are questions from the audience, it's a good chance for you to ask. So they had the same way in front of them, they had their experience, so whatever question you have, just shoot. Let's start with an easy question. How did you get involved with EIT Manufacturing?
So from our side, we had contacts to the German board and TU Darmstadt with the production system, and then we had a discussion about how to utilize the system for improving inspection tasks in the manufacturing process. And basically, in this course of the discussion, we got involved in the Avispa project within the EIT Manufacturing ecosystem.
And as Prima Industria, Prima Industria was one of the founding members of the EIT Manufacturing, so we are in this journey since the very beginning of the EIT Manufacturing, and of course we participated also in the very first beginning with some innovative projects that of course were involving the additive manufacturing. It is one of the most innovative technology that we have, so we started since the very beginning.
So in your case, it was a little bit easier to get involved.
Yeah.
How was it then really to form the consortium? So when you then joined a project, an idea, a proposal in manufacturing, so how was it then to really to find the group of partners working together then in a project? And also, how did you perceive there the support from EIT Manufacturing for that? So was it helpful or yeah?
So first, to your last question, it was definitely helpful because the framework was set, the connections were made to the companies, to potentially interesting companies. So we were stepping in relatively late. So the consortium were more or less already existing. And the reason where we came in was that it was an issue about optical inspection tools, capabilities. So we basically found our consortium partners. And prepared, basically, yes.
And yes, for us, let's say, I think that at the very first beginning, it was quite easy to find some partners, also because we had some experience in other European projects, but also to be involved with the additive manufacturing. At the very beginning, we struggled a little bit because, of course, it was a new company, new technologies, and so on. But I mean, if you follow the EIT Manufacturing event and call it, they have. You will easily find partners or other projects and so on that you can apply with and so on. And then in these last 2 years, we were seeing that after we strong some relationship together with the other. We basically were invited directly from the other partner, so it was quite easier. So just survive the first year, and then everything will be easier.
And in regards of commercialization, there is then the need to sign an internal agreement between all the partners, how the outcome of the project, so when it then finally reaches the market, how this is shared and how this is handled, basically. How difficult was that, especially for a smaller company or in your case, that you came in a consortium which was already formed? How difficult was that?
I think this was really difficult, to be honest, because the expectations were different, and also the commercial buy-in, let me say it like this, were different. So it is there were a couple of issues. From the beginning, it was not really clear what is really the solution and the problem to be solved. So I had to carve that out in the course of the project. And here, thanks to the industrial project partners, this was then turned out into very fruitful and very good projects and topics to work on. However, on the commercialization aspect, I think we had long discussions, and at the end of the day, it was basically put on the smallest company in this consortium to build business models and to find potential solutions for commercialization. So I would have wished if the big companies would bring in more dedication to really make it commercially happen in the market. So it is good to speak, to discuss what is possible and so on. But at the end of the day, this is theory. At the end of the day, you need to see how it really works out. And at this time, it's also important that all partners have commercial interests and really commercial buy-in. And this would be, to my mind, important for the future.
And well, for our case, well, it was a little bit different because we were involved basically in a project where we were not really the business owner. We participated in a lot of digitalization projects and also some application project type. And basically, what we reached at the end of the project was, of course, a commercialization strategy that maybe end up with a sort of an agreement or sort of memorandum of understanding and so on. But yes, for some application or some optional solution that we can install, we can implement on our machine in that way.
How helpful or easy was it then to get end users? So all of our projects, they have also to involve end users. For example, in the future call, or in the new call, we even increased it that they have to have even 2 end users involved because we want to scale up the solutions to make the entry to the market easier for the projects.
Well, in our case, it was relatively easy because we actually had 2 companies as end users in it. And I would say, from my perspective, this was very valuable, very good, because we had a wide range of topics and use cases at the end, which we were working on. I would say we investigated at the very beginning a couple, and it turned out that it would be difficult to realize them. And at the end of the day in the project, we had basically 3 different use cases realized for the 2 different end users or industrial companies applying it industrially. So I think this was really good, and for also here in terms of a startup, it is extremely important, very valuable and helpful to get an understanding of the real needs from the end users and to be able to develop something which is then really fitting into the system and to the environment of those end users. And I can tell in our case, at least, it looks like that the solution which came out of the project somehow fits. Well, it is not completely commercialized yet, but at least there is some potential on the market and some discussions ongoing. So I think this turned out, for at least from our perspective, as very good.
And in our case, it's quite interesting because we started at the beginning with the first project as pilot customer, let's say. So we were the end user, let's say, at the very first beginning, trying to integrate some solution. But then after 2-3 years of project, we started to invite our possible customer, let's say, to join the project, and this was very useful useful for us because most of our, let's say, possible customer was a little bit afraid about these new technologies, about the additive, maybe don't want to do the investment at the very first beginning, also because we talk about our machine, you can check on our website, we are talking about big machine, so it means also big investment, and sometimes there is a little bit of afraid of from our possible customer to have this investment. So we then find a way with the EIT Manufacturing project to work together with our customer, trying to exploit this innovative technology with their application that they want to check, to discover, and so on. And this was very, very interesting for us and also for our customers.
Okay, thank you. How successful was it in the end? So, did you reach the market? How did it go?
I would say we are close to the market. So we are not yet in and everything done, but I think the project helped us at least to identify attractive use cases, testing them with real end users, getting real feedback, and basically getting the complete framework in such a way that it can be, I would say, used as a consolidated proof of concept. And from there on, getting into the market, as I stated earlier, we are already now in discussions with market players to what extent it can be used. We are also in discussion with the project partners, how that can be now brought to into operational, can be made operational, but we are not there yet.
Well, in our case, I can say we survived. We survived because actually Prima Additive now it's a separated company with their own legal entity, and in 2021 we had 5 million of revenue. So I think that we can say that we survived. Otherwise, there won't be a separated company, of course, from Prima Industria. And for us was quite. Well, someone could say, okay, but you had on your back a big company. They maybe support you. Yes, that could be. It could be true, but you have also to convince just one investors, your biggest investors, and if you not convince them, then you will immediately could be immediately closed. So it's quite tricky. I mean, we survived. We are now an independent company, of course, owned by Prima Industria, but we are there. We are now selling our machine, our solution, and so on. So.
Maybe one comment in terms of the time frame available. So what I think you start, the partners come together, they try to investigate use cases. But this requires the development work, and the commercialization within 1 year or 1.5 years is extremely challenging. So because if you go to when you want to make something real operational, and a commercial product needs much more than showing a demonstrator. And I think the target of the whole framework, at least from my perspective, was not entirely clear. If you are now making a proof of concept and then that's it, but then you cannot really talk about commercialization, at least only for commercialization options. Or you target really process stable implementation, but this is a completely different story and a different timeline.
Actually, this would have been exactly my next question.
Oh,
if you see it as realistic to really to reach the market within 1 year.
No.
But you answered this already. Yeah.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Well, it depends where you start from. Maybe that's make it get a little bit more in detail. So when you start from something, well, here's a case. I don't know how to solve it. Let's try it. and we have also no real idea how this could end up in a business model for commercialization, then I would say a 1 year is definitely not enough. If you have something completely worked out, so you start basically from a proof of concept, let's say TRL6, TRL7, then I think it's feasible.
So do you think that commercializations should start earlier, or just the technology which you want to go through should be more developed? So from my experience, what I saw was the project seldom had issues with the result, so with the technical result. So whatever they promised at the beginning, most of the time really they reached it. So the technology, they focused really on that. This was achieved. Only the commercialization part, that was missing.
This is, I would agree that the commercialization part was tricky and difficult, but also, at least in our case, we had issues on the table where we scratched our head and thought, wow, okay, let's think how that can be solved. And we solved it. At the end, we solved it. But with a lot of engineering, and based on that, you can't advance it beyond a proof of concept.
Okay. So in your case, I guess it was...
Yes, of course. Also for our, for our machine, for our prototype machine, of course, 1 year is not feasible, of course. And in fact, we were focused on project that could, let's say, enhance our machine with some digital tool or exploring some nice application for the additive manufacturing. And in that way, we were compliant with this EIT manufacturing project, when you have to, of course, provide financial sustainability first, but also a commercialization strategy in the very first year. So we were able to develop with our some strategic partner all the new features, new optional that could be ready in 1 or 2 years, let's say, on the market, but just for, of course, some part of the machine, not for the whole machine, the whole prototype of the machine, of course.
Okay. Were there any other big issues which, I don't know, delayed the project, delayed the go-to-market, delayed the commercialization of the product? Was there anything? It is also for us a learning to collect this information. Also, we want to get better.
Sure, that is very good. So, but one thing you can't really deal with, at least our project fell in the Corona time. So we were blocked with traveling, with meetings, and this created substantial delays in the whole development. I would say, in addition, the commercial perspective. What is what you want to achieve? How is your, from the end users, the business options and the potential business opportunities? Maybe if this is clearer from the very beginning, it would help to accelerate.
Well, yes, a part of the pandemic situation that, of course, I think that, let's say, opened our eyes to everyone. This situation demonstrates that we have to be very flexible and change immediately whatever was our business model. Otherwise, we cannot survive. And in our case, was like that. We were trying to sell at the very first beginning. Just the machine, so want to sell the machine, but then we saw that there was also other option to sell, for instance, the application, or create a network, a service, and so on. So I think that this situation opened our eyes, and we have to be ready for these changes and really be very, very flexible and so on, also on the market.
If you could go back in time, if you would start this project again, would you do anything different? Or where would you put your focus, or what would you change?
I think I would try to understand already in the initialization phase of the project to understand the use cases and the technical requirements of those use cases, rather than trying to identify them at the beginning of the running project. So you have basically a clear understanding where to start, and this could also accelerate a little bit in the development. And as I said, I would love if the commercial opportunities and expectations are also defined at the very beginning, because it makes clear what do you want, what do you really want out of this, how should it work, and because that is important not only for the development but also how you position yourself in this environment. At least if from our side, if you have a completely new vision system and you are going to develop the software for it, so that you know the better the expectations, that could accelerate. Otherwise, I think the project from our perspective turned out to be extremely valuable in terms of, as I said, learning use cases, learning potential customers to know. So this was, so from that point of view, it was really super.
Well, and also for us, of course, the understanding of the market, first of all, maybe should have been done very, very clearly since the very beginning. Maybe we could start at very soon with some type of business model and so on since the very beginning. And in fact, what we are trying to do now is to create a network of customers that want to join, let's say, our additive Prima Open Additive Lab and so on. So maybe start earlier with this analysis, and maybe also start since the very beginning to have a mindset, let's say, oriented to the digitalization of the asset, not to focus on the real asset, but to start to think more on the digital asset, because I think that you will find much more of value on that part. So try to sell the service and so on. This will fuel a little bit more the market instead of selling the machine, the tangible asset. So I think that we have to start since the beginning to have this digital mindset.
Mm-hmm. We also give very often the tip to our partners not to focus too much on reaching the 100% of the technical solution. So already when they have something in their hand, to go already then on the market and use the time afterwards when they can already sell something, for example services, that then they use the time to improve it. This is also something we very often, you're not so convinced.
Yeah, I think partially it depends really on the what you are going to sell. What it is, what is it? So in our case, we face a situation that we get immediately compared to other solutions existing in the market. So you need to go in the quality of the solution beyond this. The expectation, in particular from end users, if you have operational ones, they know how it could work, and so the expectation bar could potentially be pretty high. So if you come with a new solution, which in particular involves hardware developments, this could be difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. Yeah. In case you would do another project with EIT Manufacturing, what could we do better to increase your chance to reach the market, or at least to reach the market earlier? Something, I don't know, at the moment we offer commercialization workshops. For example, we adapt the call for bringing in more end users. So we put already different things in place. Mm-hmm. And would you have any proposals for us to be better in that perspective?
Yeah, I think we touched it already from my perspective. The commercialization options should be clearer. I think what my colleague here on the stage just said about digitalization would be also very good in the mindset from the beginning, because I observe also that depending on the industries you are working on. Well, besides EIT, this is more a general comment. In manufacturing, I observe a pretty good connection to traditional business models rather than digital ones. So if the EIT could certainly educate about opportunities and then also rethinking business models. So it's not necessarily over the counter, but as you said, services. And what kind of services can it be? Also business models which allow for recurrent revenues, which helps both sides, the end user in terms of upfront investments and also in particular startups with running royalties. Although this is not established in manufacturing, as I learned, while it is established in software and IT. So here I think there could be some benefits thinking in those directions, and maybe EIT framework could support thinking and educating in this direction.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the same way, because most of the time the projects are focused on the technical solution. You know, you always go with them. You see, I have this fantastic new solution, technical solution, okay, but then you have to have a clear commercialization strategy and so on. So maybe you can strengthen a little bit more this part, providing some more advice and so on based on the solution that they proposed. In this way, I think that yeah, a lot of partner will join and will be more willingness to have the EIT manufacturing project.
Thank you. I would have had many more questions, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So I just say a big thank you to both of you for joining here.